One would hope, by now, I would be a baroness of hell, sitting on a throne of the sad, pathetic mortals that had wronged me in my past life, while sipping wine from Amunda's skull. Sadly, my situation is much less ideal. I am leaning over the balcony of my lovely, but unfortunately shared, apartment in the lovely city of Boston. I use the word lovely with heavy sarcasm. Samantha had procured a lovely condo in the north end of the city, right on Stillman Street. A lovely view of the city, mind you, and quiet enough. My issue was, we had been here for almost a week and yet to find our demonic companion. Despite Amunda's best, or worst, efforts, it was hard to tell most of the time. "Live your best life," I said out on the balcony overlooking the city. "It's not this life I'm concerned over." The door opened, and I turned to see the courier service bringing in groceries. The courier smiled and waved to me. "Good afternoon, Miss BellaDelAvana," admiring the city. "Yes, to my shock, it's all still there," I said, walking inside and looking over the items he had brought in. "None of your American sweetbread, right? Why is something as simple as bread chock full of sugar? Is there some kind of shortage of the stuff?" "No," he chuckled. "No, Miss BellaDelAvana. Just as you said, I'm from the local bakery." He pulled out a loaf in the paper bag. "Good," I smiled, and put the bread away myself while the courier filled the fridge with various fruits and vegetables from his bags. "I honestly couldn't do it," he laughed. "Do what?" I asked, turning to the courier whose name I never learned. Courier will be his name and title until he becomes something more to me. "Well, not eat meat for one," he chuckled. "To me, a meal isn't complete without meat." I faked a smile and looked the courier over. It was no small wonder he was a meat eater, likely to wolf down burgers and fries on the regular. I could see his pudgy midsection, and I was certain that despite him being a young man, he likely had high blood pressure. "Well, it's mostly poison," I explained, walking past him and picking a carrot up. "My mother always taught me to treat my body as a temple." The courier's eyes roamed my curves after I said this. I cast him a withering gaze, causing him to turn his head down and busy himself with putting the food away. My gaze didn't change as he packed up his bags. I'm very sorry to..." I slammed the door in his face. As if I needed a reminder of how much humanity disgusted me. The greasy, lecherous courier was a regular reminder. Soon the door opened once more, and I turned on my heel, glaring. "That was a hint to, oh, it's you." I crossed my arms, looking down my nose at Amunda as he walked in, a cage with a pair of white rabbits in his hands. Amunda nodded. "Yes, just your master." "Who cannot locate the demon he summoned?" I added. He pointed a thin, bony finger at me. "Not now, apprentice. I have already told you she hides herself. I have found her victims, every one of them, but she herself is nowhere to be found. We must reach out for assistance." My eyes glanced to the rabbits. "Sacrifices?" Amunda nods. "We each share a skill, Bella. My skills are summoning and divination, while yours are much more spiritual. You can speak to the pit, and now we will see some guidance." I frowned. "Seems risky. We have so far failed miserably." "Even your Lord Asmodai said he could not see his thrall, yes? If he cannot find her, then we are at a disadvantage, so," he said, lifting the cage. "We need guidance regarding what our next task is." I shifted my weight back and forth. It wasn't the worst idea, but it could also be the worst idea. If we reported that we didn't even find the demoness, then we aren't just disappointing Asmodai, but Mammon. Samantha was bankrolling us in excess, which I would expect from an avatar of greed, but we were quickly shifting from asset to liability. Liabilities are often dealt with aggressively. "You said you found your victims," I asked. Amunda nodded. "Most of them. At least the sites where they had their last gasp. Oddly, there's another presence here." This piqued my interest. Another presence? I had lost track of the Earth Mage once he was back on the ground, So whoever Amunda was feeling had some kind of ability. Yes, it seems that someone has a sliver demonic heritage. They were near one site I visited, but I did not stick around to find out who it was, he admitted, much more focused on the task at hand. We need help, Master, I reminded. While asking the pit for help might be a good idea, let us leave that for the last resort. It has only been a week, yes? Fearful of a critique of your performance? Amunda asked. I turned from him. Master, I merely want to have something to report. Fine, he scoffed, placing the rabbits on the counter. At least you and these little pests eat the same diet. With his back turned, I put my pointer and pinky finger up, with my center fingers held down at my palm, hiding my hand before he turned back to me. Corntow, I thought to myself. I found another promising venture, though I am unsure how promising it is. He slid a pamphlet over to me, which I picked up tentatively. The pamphlet was a bright white and gold, and had bold lettering on it. Dentry Ministries. Follow acclaimed televangelist Joshua Dentry at the Boston Convention and Exhibit Center this weekend. Get closer to God. Receive a signed Bible from Minister Joshua Dentry himself. Tickets available starting at only $29.99 a seat. I handed the pamphlet back to him. Why on earth would I find myself within 1,000 kilometers of this man? The back of the pamphlet had a man with far too white teeth, brightly shining in a white suit and a blue tie, with a cross on it. He, typical of one like him, also had a necktie with a crucifix on it, in gold. He is looking for someone to pull a demon from the pit for him, Amunda explained. I raised an eyebrow. Is this the dark man you spoke of? No, Amunda advised. I ran into him when I was seeking the succubus. He was also on her trail. I think we can take advantage of the fool, Amunda supposed. How so? I asked. If he wishes for us to summon a demon, then very well, but I shall bind the demon to myself, and we will have the demon to kill him. Then we can better seek our quarry, he advised. I raised an eyebrow. Master, are you admitting? Bella, Amunda explained. I am a summoner. I conjure up weak demons normally. The recent demon was my greatest success, but I must be honest. I had never been so successful before. I'm shocked, I blanched. Amunda rolled his eyes. However, I am more skilled than the average man. It will not be hard to pull the wool over this preacher's eyes, and if there is one place a demon is most welcome, would be in a house of lies, I said, looking over the pamphlet. I had to wear a higher collared dress than I liked. This was to hide the tattoos of a pentagram above my left breast, and the sigil of Asmodai I had recently had emboldened on my right. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. I had a lovely Givenchy that fit the bill, a full-sleeve dress that flattered my curves exquisitely and stopped at the mid-thigh. A splash of silver sequins across the front of the dress in an embroidered wave design, which crossed my shoulders and ended at my waist. A conservative, yet alluring statement with my smart stilettos. The speakers were deafening, and the sweaty and greasy overweight couple next to me was making me fairly nauseous. I could smell the fast food oozing out of their pores as they screamed loudly when Minister Dentry walked his self-righteous ass on stage. My heart lurched in my chest as the sound waves from the speaker slammed into my ears and chest. God bless you, Boston! The crowd erupted into applause. How are you all doing tonight? Are you feeling blessed? He grinned, his face plastered on a large LCD screen over the stage for all to see. Pride, I thought to myself, or vanity. Ladies and gentlemen, I am honored. No, I have the privilege this evening of coming to this beautiful city. More cheers as he pandered to the audience. Do you know what they call this lovely place outside of Boston? Some laughter came over the crowd. Someone said something inaudible from the front row. Minister Dentry smiled wide, his bleached white teeth nearly shining in the monitor. That's right, young man. It's the Puritan City. Where are my Puritans? The crowd once more erupted into screaming. I covered my ears, my stomach churning. Amunda was in an aisle seat, his eyes on the portion of the stage I could not see. I leaned over to him. "For how long must we endure this?" I complained. Amunda turned to me. "An hour or two? Then when he finishes, we're to meet him backstage." My heart sank as I sat myself down in the uncomfortable stadium seat. This was far from my best life. My eyes trained up to the ceiling, and even there I could spot Minister Dentry's fake smile and surgically enhanced face glaring down at me from an off angle. My lip quivered in anger. "I hope the demons we summon kills you," I thought to the image above. I wanted to be the one to slit his throat. It had been a while since my knife had a taste of blood. "God's grace above all else is here tonight." His fake mouth echoed his false words, and I could not help but sneer at his remark. I closed my eyes and heaved a heavy sigh. "Because God has a plan for all of us. Yes, he does. Yes, he does," Minister Dentry exclaimed. I felt a pit form in my stomach. I stood up and without another word, I stormed out of the auditorium, my disappearance noticed only by Amunda. When I was outside, the heavy doors, which shut behind me, dulled the roar of the crowd. A wetness ran down my cheek. I pulled out my compact mirror and found I had tears running down my face, and with it, my mascara had run. With a desperate need, I made my way to the nearest ladies' room and attended to my makeup disaster as swiftly as possible. I cleared the streaks from my cheeks and looked down into the sink, my heart in my throat. "Why am I crying?" I asked myself, looking back to the mirror, my eyes still wet. "What is wrong with you?" I growled at my reflection. Behind me, I thought I saw my mother in the mirror. I spun around, seeing nothing. When I turned back, I saw her dead and cold corpse staring back at me in the mirror, its cloudy eyes, black lips, and pale, clammy skin standing next to me. "Forgetting someone?" Her corpse spoke. I cocked my hymn to my side. "Ariok, how nice to see you. Do you think you can escape my debt so easily, harlot?" Ariok puppeteered Mother's lips as he spoke. Without paying him much mind, I adjusted my makeup. "You're the one who made our deal moot. I would be willing to try again," I said, replying my makeup. "But you got angry and ruined my womb." Ariok growled. "They purified my seed from your body, wench. It was not my doing." "Well, isn't that nice to know?" "Regardless, I did my part of the bargain, no?" Ariok growled, the glass shaking and the lights flickering. "No, you did not." My makeup fixed. I smiled at him. "I'm well aware, but it's not my fault they caught us. How was I to know the bitch texted a priest right before she died?" He narrowed his eyes to me. "You gave him my name." I shrugged. "You gave me your name with a little fuss, back in the day." Ariok grinned wide, Mother's blackened teeth showing to me. I heaved a sigh. Why not show me what you really look like, rather than twisting my mother's image before me? A sick laugh came from the mirror. "Because I am a spirit of vengeance, and this is the only thing that makes you recall your utter disdain for humanity." I turned back to the mirror, Ariok now showing me a cleaned-up version of my mother. Younger, vibrant, like when Father was only just beginning to ruin our combined lives. "I haven't thought of my dear mother in years," I explained. "So why are you here now?" Ariok caused streaks of mascara-stained tears rolled down my mother's face. "God has a plan for us, my Bella." My fists clenched. "Oh, I see. That sermon." Ariok made Mother's skin lose its color and decay. Her face grew thinner. "Yes." "So you're here for that, then?" I asked. Ariok grinned, Mother's face thinning more, now growing almost skeletal. "Oh no, I came to give you good news." "Good news?" I asked, fixing my mascara and reapplying my lipstick, ensuring my image was perfect. "What news is that?" "Consider your debt with me settled in full," the skull-faced version of my mother spoke. horns cracking through her skull. I flinched. The sigil of Asmodai began to burn on my skin. What do you mean? I have transferred it, he grinned, to my master. I slammed my hands on the sink. You bastard! Ariok's laugh shook the glass as his image vanished. You wish to usurp my authority in the pit. So be it. Answer to him now. See how far you can get when the Lord of Wrath is the one you must appease. The sigil felt as if it was searing my flesh, and glanced to the tattoo, and gritted my teeth as the heat caused my flesh to wither around the ink. Now I no longer had a tattoo. It was a brand. Green smoke rose from the newly etched mark in my flesh. As some of it wafted up towards me, I inhaled and doubled over. My dark familiars around me tinged green, and I shuddered as a surge of hatred washed over me. Ariok, you prick, I growled. Did my own eyes flash green? I tried to compose myself, the pain from the brand fading, though it was still fresh in my mind. Ensuring I was freshened up, and making sure I covered the new brand, I made my way back to the auditorium. As I walked in, it was just as Minister Dentry was wrapping up his sermon. My God, we've talked together a lot today, but you know what we can talk about soon? It's what has yet to be revealed. There was more cheering. Amunda turned to me, a security guard standing next to him. We're to go backstage, apparently. Good. I looked to the security guard. It was a boring sermon. As they led us towards the back, I heard Minister Dentry finish up. Revelations, people. Tomorrow, we will talk about revelations. When I see you this time tomorrow, I will show you revelations. He paused. The real revelations. They led us to the back of the stage behind a large curtain, and we waited for a few more hours. Finally, we were met by the minister, who promptly shook Amunda's hand. Pleasure to meet you, sir. A pleasure. He looked me up and down. And your daughter? Apprentice, I clarified. Amunda nodded. Yes, I am the master here. Anyone who says I am king is no king, I thought to myself. Excellent. The more the merrier. This has to go down without a hitch, he explained. So, what reason do you have to summon a demon, Minister Dentry? I asked. He flashed his bright white smile at me. Well, my dear, I plan to purge it on stage. I lifted an eyebrow. I knew he was lying. That was obvious. If the point was theatrics, stage props and makeup would be a better effigy than to defy God and pull forth a real demon. Something wasn't right in my mind, but I put it out of my mind. The purpose wasn't important. The point was his hubris would be his utter downfall. He likely felt God touched him, but if God were here, this man would be the first to face the holy judgment of his wrath. He stood there in his designer suit jacket, custom colored to be off-white, with gold seams and trim. I bet he even had a private jet and owned a mansion. Oh, I see, I said simply. How interesting. Why would we accept such a thing? I taunted. Why would I bring a demon forth only for you to vanquish it moments later? Minister Dentry grinned. Well, I am paying you handsomely. I glanced to Amunda. Money wasn't what we needed, but I played dumb and decided to figure out the details when we were done. Well, I guess you would pay us well. Why's that? He grinned. I flashed my own beautiful smile to him. Because a camel has a better chance of passing through the eye of a needle than a rich man has of entering the kingdom of heaven. Minister Dentry's smile, for once, faded. I'll leave you to it then, he said as he turned and stormed off. I grinned as he left, satisfied I had gotten under his skin enough. Amunda walked over to me. He spoke in a hushed tone as he prepared the circle. You smell of sulfur. I frowned, giving myself a sniff, not detecting anything. Amunda tapped his nose and then pulled my collar back, revealing my new brand. As I suspected, Amunda said, dejected. What did you suspect? Amunda opened a bucket of salt and began to mix something into it. I was wrong. They spoke to you. What are you talking about? The demons from down below? He mixed with a stern gaze. They have an affinity for you. I was silent, not sure what I should or shouldn't say. Amunda grumbled. I have one trait. He huffed and heffed the bucket of salt. I can seek powerful items. Anything with a potent spiritual energy I can seek out. He dropped the bucket down in the middle of a large area and began to draw runes with it. The runes were much larger than I had expected, but Amunda continued on as he was, keeping the circle he was designing to scale. But I have only summoned one demon, despite my time and research, he grumbled. 60 years of research, not a peep. He looked to me. You're no older than 25, and here they speak to you directly. They began when I was 13, I added. Amunda nodded. With your mother, yes? You sought vengeance, and the demon found you and struck a bargain. The cat was well out of the bag. It was clear Amunda was listening to my conversation with Samantha. Yes. He moved the bucket out of the circle and continued to draw on the floor with it. Your ability to speak with them is unheard of. So you keep saying, I blanched. Amunda cracked his neck as he continued to make the inner rings of the summoning circle. Yet you call me master, and that shouldn't be the case. He looked to me. I should be the student to you. I sneered as yet another one of my plans was about to fall apart due to some idiot man. Listen here, I began whispering to him. As far as everyone can tell, as far up as the bloody Vatican, you are the summoner. I'm just a witch who went crazy after I tried to have a demon's child. Amunda nodded. So, what do we do then? I poked his shoulder. You keep acting like the master. I'll be the apprentice. If you want to learn spells and such, I'll teach you. But you need to keep the act up. I looked to the circle we were drawing. Who are we summoning anyway? As I appraised the circle, despite its size, I noticed it was a lesser summoning incantation. Something strong enough to kill our would-be benefactor, he smiled. But nothing as lofty as a lord of hell. Are you thinking, a lesser demon? Our benefactor claimed to have a name, Amunda explained. If he summoned something too big, it may kill us. I trailed off, dreading going to hell with a dead on my head. Amunda shook his head. Even if he called forth a lord of hell, the circle I drew isn't power enough to draw upon such a creature. I nodded, looking at the large circle he was now working on. That is true. Unless we use a region artifact, like the feather of yours, we likely won't have an issue. Just enough to kill the minister, then? I confirmed. Yes, and perhaps tag along with us and aid in our search for the demoness. Listen to me, I explained. My debt with Ariok, they transferred it to Asmodai. He motioned to the brand on my shoulder. Thus the mark? Yes, the mark. I covered the tender flesh with my dress once more. We can make the preacher here our first sacrifice. I need 9 souls to go to hell that could be saved. How specific, he confirmed. A televangelist is most certainly a hypocritical man. Are you sure he'll have enough sin to fall? Despite the money, they often donate much to charities. This one is trying to summon a demon. Something tells me that, at the moment, he's not in God's good graces. I turned to see Minister Dentry returning. I smiled, approaching him. Minister, I said sweetly, the little spirit at my neck taking my cues and readying itself to latch on to Dentry. My master is nearly complete in creating the circle. Is there something you wish to request? No, my lovely young lady, you two are doing splendidly. Minister Dentry beamed, looking me up and down. I should apologize, I said as I sauntered closer to him, for being so combative before. It's just my nature, you know. He beamed. Pay it no mind, my dear. A woman's heart is a mystery, so I'll forgive you, as is my nature. I slid my hands over his shoulders, pressing myself against him. I just feel terrible about insulting you. Can I make it up to you? He grinned. How would you do that? I motioned for him to bend down. He did so without hesitation. As he did, I leaned into his ear and began to suck on his earlobe. I hesitated only slightly as the acrid taste of his cheap cologne had sent me reeling. After doing my best to ignore his sharp flavor, I redoubled my efforts, feeling his hand slide down my back. I nipped at his ear. As I did, the spirit latched onto his neck, branding him with a small mark. "Oh!" he pulled back, covering the brand and grinning to me. "Feisty. I like that." I purred. "I can provide more, Minister, if you would like." He grinned. "After the show, the wife likes to watch, purify sinners with my holy oils." He winked at me. Every bodily function at that moment did its best to keep me from gagging at the thought. "It is complete. Now I'll need my assistant to prepare the incantation," Amunda interrupted. Fine, Minister Dentry grinned. "We need to prepare for tomorrow's sermon. If this isn't ready by this morning, then you aren't getting paid." He vanished, and I reached into my purse for a mint, hoping to get the taste of his cologne out of my mouth. Amunda looked over the circle. "Thoughts?" I looked it over myself. "Looks good enough for our purposes," I said, spotting the center was still blank. "Does he know to put the name of the demon he wishes into the circle?" Amunda nods. "Unfortunately." I shrugged. "It shouldn't matter. This circle won't be powerful enough to pull something too dangerous to us up." Amunda sighed. "Yes, a shame I don't have my amber any longer. If I could get it back from that priest." "Father Thomas will suffer in due time. Trust me, he's on my list." Amunda knelt by the circle, fixing something. "You're certain that I shouldn't add anything as insurance? Maybe a portion of your feather. Not the whole thing, mind you." Someone made their way inside, and as they did, Amunda changed his tone. "Damn it, woman, listen to my instructions. You are my apprentice, after all." I turned to see a young man, and to my shock and surprise, he had a dark taint within him. Unlike myself, where I made deals to have dark spirits surround me, this man had darkness emanating within. Though it was a weakened darkness, to say the least, it was there, and I could see it surrounding him. He stood around 180 centimeters, a lanky man with dark blonde hair, and he looked like he hadn't slept in days by the circles under his eyes. A dark gray shirt of no real renown was over his chest, and a pair of simple pants, likely bought from some big box stores. He wore his clothing disheveled and unkempt. Was this another summoner? How many had Dentry contacted? How many had he gone through before? Worst yet, did he know more than he was letting on? "Wait, who on earth are you?" I asked as he approached. "Woman," Amunda shouted, getting my attention. "If this is to work, I need more potent regions," he said, motioning to the feather that I had tucked into my sleeve. I narrowed my eyes on him. "We are not wasting resources on this menial task," I justified, my hand tracing the feather held close to me. The man's voice called to both of us, interrupting us. "I wasn't expecting a team-building exercise," he pointed out. "Who the hell are you two?"